before we put this on, better yet, I'm gonna get these speaker terminals way easier to cut on a small piece like this. I came up with this, but I don't think everyone has a conveyor belt to work with. Just go like that, and then that doesn't really work. Okay, if this actually threads, I'll be kind of surprised. It's a reverse thread, I think. Let's see. Oh, baby. Look at that. So that's gonna be on the inside like that. Look at that. I mean, just perfect. One of the reasons you do a subwoofer tube is because it's stiff. It's a lot stiffer than a flat wall box. Bass cannon. Let's go try it out. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while and this one is long overdue. For those of you that saw my small bass for a tiny space video, this is like next level up. I got inspired by those 6-inch speakers and now I want to do it with an 8 for our Subaru. I didn't want to use the Bazooka Tube for these since the JL is a pretty heavy speaker, a little more stability for the 8-inch, better resonance. So we're going to 8-inch PVC. You can't see the 8-inch PVC pipe. We're gonna turn this into a sonic and it's gonna be a lot of fun, so stick around. So there it is, a 16-foot PVC tube I've got stored in my basement. It's been hanging out there for a couple of years. I used to keep that on top of my work van until the HOA told me I was not allowed to have things on top of my van at night. Now, this end already has a nice cap on it. And if you guys end up enjoying this video, you're gonna want to subscribe because I'm gonna turn this end into a sealed tube for a 8W7 for another vehicle. For now, we're gonna get cutting. I'm gonna take about a 2-foot chunk out of here for this job. Okay, I'm gonna mark this at 3 feet. Mark out the next one out here at 2 feet, which we'll probably trim down to like 20 inches. And these cuts don't need to be perfect. They just need to be close because the end caps are gonna square up that edge and I don't have to worry about it being perfectly aligned. All right, you can tell this got some good resonance in there. You hear the bass already. I did the math with ChatGPT. Take a look at the screenshots. That's where we're cutting at 14 inches. You need to double check ChatGPT's math. Even though it does good math, sometimes it doesn't understand what you're asking, and sometimes it does things backwards. Like it told me to cut the space out to accommodate for extra woofer instead of add space to accommodate for the woofer volume. So 14 inches, that's pretty short. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it here because then I don't have to cut it again in the shop. If it doesn't sound good, I guess I'll start over. Good enough for government work right there. All right, so we're just gonna clean this up. That's a lot easier. Look, nice and flush. I hope bass doesn't sound like that. I've never tried this. It supposedly rates pretty well. It's all in one, primer and glue. Maybe before we put this on, better yet, to get these speaker terminals way easier to cut on a small piece like this. And these guys, look how thick that is. That's about as thick as our pipe. Most of you who gave me feedback in my last video, you know, should have used screw terminals. And I thought, well, this works fine. I wasn't thinking there was gonna be an issue holding the wire with the spring clip ones, but you definitely get a more solid connection with the screws. And with how thick that is, now I'm not interrupting my sonic stiffness of the enclosure. So I'm gonna go ahead and find center on there. Then we'll drill a hole, get that installed. So if any of you have an idea, please drop it in the comments on how to find center of these. I came up with this, but I don't think everyone has a conveyor belt to work with. Just go like that, and then that doesn't really work. What do you know? There's a dimple in the middle. Just gonna put a pilot hole in there. I'm not looking forward to this part. JL thinks of everything. Check this out. The packaging is my template. So smart. So we're gonna get that transferred over here, and I'm just gonna have to take a little bit of time to make sure I measure the equidistant before I mark it. The diameter is 7 inches. Drum roll, please. Oh yeah, that looks really sharp. Be sure not to destroy this because this is going to be helpful later. This is going to be the vent that goes on top, and the way I'm going to cap it is I'm going to trace that shape onto here, and I'm going to cut out of this to seal that up to the tube. Thoroughly clean the inside of this and the outside of the pipe that's going on it. And it said, you know, don't overdo it. I'm starting to think the 2-part stuff works better, guys. I don't like great rushing. I was going to quarter turn it, but it does not want to turn. That's going to work. Just to make sure we get a solid sound seal. Once this sets up, I'm going to go ahead and put that epoxy on those seams right there just to be safe. Go get the other side and we'll finish that up. So this is going to be the vent that runs along the top, the port vent, whatever. And this is basically going to get cut probably right about there. I got to run the math because this needs to be by JL spec like a 3-inch, 13-inch long vent, and we have a 14-inch tube. So it's probably half of this. This is a 4-inch. I'm going to cut this on the bend, so I'm going to run it through, but I don't want it to do this. So what I'm going to do with this piece of MDF here is cut a jig. And it's going to basically just be a right angle, and then I'm going to screw these in so that that can't move, and I'll run the whole thing through the saw. Just screwing these into the pipe. It doesn't matter. Pipe's gonna be a lot shorter than that. It doesn't matter if we have holes there. It's not gonna hurt anyone's feelings. All right, so I ran the calculations with ChatGPT and had to account for all kinds of things like the 8-inch pipe cutting into the volume of the tube. JL Audio asks for an 18-inch by 2-inch round internal port, and since we're going external, it didn't seem like that made a difference, at least not what I could figure out with AI. Guess we'll find out. But the fact that it's on the outside and we're not doing a circle, we're doing sort of a half moon, since the inside of it's going to be shaped like this on the 8-inch tube, and the outside's going to be like a taller arc like that. There's a little bit of a math problem on there that I am not qualified to answer, so I had ChatGPT give me a hand, and I hope that helps you guys, the prompting that I used, in case you wanted to make one of these of a different size woofer or whatnot. You can probably just copy my prompting and see what you get. All right, so I made a mark at the 40% depth line, and I'm gonna cut it a little bit bigger than that. You can see right there, because that radius is gonna cut into that space underneath. Okay, so this is our vent, and I'm gonna run it like right there, close enough. I'm gonna mark where I need to cut in to be able to drop this down on both sides. And for these final little touches, I like to use these let's test fit it. Perfect. There's a little bit of gap, and that's because we need to cut the radius into this. So I have to think about how I'm gonna do that. Maybe with a grinder. All right, I'm gonna give this a shot. Grinder for the win. Okay, I just eyeballed that. We'll see how it does. I'll take it. Good enough. We're just gonna fill any of those gaps, if there are any, with PVC cement. Well, I thought that looked a little thin, so I ran the numbers by ChatGPT, and sure enough, we're like 62% of spec volume. So I asked ChatGPT to run it on the other 60% cut of the 4-inch PVC, and that would be over. About a 50% cut would have been the sweet spot. So back to the drawing board. Got to do it again. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out the end cap, and we'll get that cemented into the vent. Test fit right there. I think that'll work. Okay, I'm gonna get some of this JB Weld plastic bonder on the inside of it. before I go ahead and before I put this on, because it's probably the best place to put it, I would think. I guess I'm just gonna sit here for a few minutes. Actually, hey cameraman, can you go in there and get the clamps, please? Almost forgot to drill the porthole before putting that vent on. And then I thought about this, if we drop a pipe, say that, into the tube, now we've effectively lengthened and increased the volume and dropped the tuning. And I did the math, it should put me around 37 Hertz. I'm gonna do it now because when I drop this tube in, it's gonna be interfering sort of in that area, and I don't want to have to deal with getting the wires in there with that in the way. Okay, oxygen-free cable. I'm gonna go ahead and solder these ring connectors, and then it's gonna be rock solid inside the sub. Got it all connected in there. Got this glued together. I'm gonna try to screw it in and from the inside. It's got some threads on there. Cut it to 2.5 inches and then seal it. Okay, if this actually threads, I'll be kind of surprised. It's a reverse thread, I think. Let's see. Oh, baby. Look at that. So that's gonna be on the inside like that. Look at that. I mean, just perfect. Next time your wife wonders why you keep all this crap laying around and you say, I'm gonna use it someday, remember this. Okay, I sealed those edges with epoxy. I think they were probably fine, but it doesn't hurt. And it's not perfectly even, but I bought textured spray paint, so that should help cover up any inconsistencies. Okay, there's the test fit. There we go. Got it clamped up, needs about 30 minutes to dry. All right, I know it's not pretty right now, but it will be. We're gonna pre-drill the holes before we paint this bad boy, and then it's just ready to go once it cures. I'm gonna take my self-centering bit. First, I'm gonna make sure this is centered, and I'm actually just gonna hit one of them right now. So I'm just gonna get one locked in there, and then I'll mark the rest of them with the tip. It should hold still. If I can't do it with one, I'll get it with a couple anyway. All right, so I got 2 in. That's enough to hold it still. I'm just gonna go ahead and mark this, because the less time I spend with a drill bit next to the speaker, the better. And then we'll drill those after I pull the speaker out. So I kind of wish I didn't glue this thing in yet. What's done is done. I put epoxy on that terminal already, so I have to tape it in so we can paint without covering that with the paint as well. So I'm gonna tape it off, and then we're gonna hang a piece of galvanized wire from there. That will let us get it painted all in one go. All right, we got gray primer, and then I got this satin hammered black finish. Well, there's primed. I'm starting to see a lot of blemishes and the scratches from the sandpaper. So I'm glad I got the hammered coat, but if you really want to have a good coat on this, you're either gonna have to sand it down to like really low grit, perhaps just get like a bed liner spray, and then that'll cover up all the imperfections, kind of like popcorn on a ceiling in the 1970s. You know what, this hammered finish looks more like just like a pewter finish. If you really want to get like hammered finish, guys, probably wouldn't hurt to get a rattle can of bed liner. I probably should have done that. It looks really nice when you're looking at the part without scratches, but then you look at the side and it's a little janky. So fortunately it's going into the back of an old Subaru, so I really don't care too much what it looks like. It's gonna look great with that sub in it too, so let's get that going. Yes, sir. And I'm not gonna put any fiber fill in there. The only reason I would do that is if I felt like the box wasn't stiff enough. One of the reasons you do a subwoofer tube is because it's stiff. It's a lot stiffer than a flat wall box like MDF. So we're not gonna get really hardly any, if any at all, reverberation inside the tube, inside the box. Bass cannon. Let's go try it out. These are so sturdy. Last but not least, let's keep this bad boy protected, and tomorrow, once the paint's cured, I'll come back and I have to do it with 2 hands. Tomorrow when the paint's cured, I'll come back and get some ratchet straps on there and bolt that thing down. If you guys want to see how I'm going to mount it, stick around. I do want to say I spent some time adjusting levels and dealing with the crossover points and the EQ last night, and really impressed with this subwoofer. Just so you guys know, this was a product of you guys watching, subscribing, and liking the channel. I literally spent the money that my son and I made to produce that last video. He's the film guy that you don't see in the background, but every once in a while I take a look at him. And we spent that money on the parts for this tube. Really appreciate that. If you haven't already and you want to see more of this kind of stuff, please like, share, subscribe. If I get enough views, I'm going to do a sealed, I already said I was gonna do it. Once I have enough views, I'm gonna do a sealed enclosure in an 8W7 with a 1000-watt JL amp, and that's gonna go into my wife's new car. So please do that. And if you guys wanna see what I'm doing back here, stick around, I'll show you how I'm gonna mount this thing. So we found that it was sounding the best a few inches from the back, and so I'm gonna mount some tie downs here, but I need to inspect. This is like such flimsy material. I'm gonna have to put some D-loops in there, and hopefully I can get that up easily and do the same there. It's gonna need like through bolts with a nut and a washer on the back. It just won't be sturdy enough if I just put wood screws into that. All right, so I drilled holes for the D-loop connectors on both sides, and then I'm gonna use these ratchet straps. I'll through bolt these. I guess we just won't keep that rubber bucket back here anymore and just deal with the vacuum mess. And this panel was popping up on its own because it's just this little tiny standalone piece, so I secured it down into, these are actually just screwing with like 1/4 inch sheet metal screws into this plastic trim edge here, and then this is going into the sheet metal of the car near the strut tower. So now that's not going anywhere. This won't, well, I mean, it might lift up a little bit, but I think we're good. We'll try. If I need to, I'll have to lock this side down too. Well, that turned out pretty good. Nice and sturdy. And as long as my son doesn't drive this car too hard, I think we're gonna be in good shape. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was helpful. And I'm by no means take my advice on how to connect PVC for plumbing purposes. This is just for recreation. And you can rest assured if I do that, or when I do that 8W7, it's gonna be cemented on both sides, not just one. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.